All right, welcome everyone. Welcome to today's Lunch and Learn. We're excited that everyone is here to join us. We wanted to take just a moment for a few announcements. We have a professional development day coming up on September 23rd and 24th. It is a half day for the 23rd and a half day through the 24th as well. We have lots of speakers, three different options for each of the hours. I'll place in the chat the link to our website for this meeting so that you can go out and take a look and register for it. We do have two keynote speakers. There's the possibility of a DASM add on to it, and then also additional conference, pre-day conference for Wednesday. So lots of great speakers and information. So again, just go out there and look at the registration. We'd love to have you join us. So we'll go ahead and get started today because I know that Bobby has plans for this entire hour for us, and pass it over.
Thank you, Pam. I'm going to share my screen here. And I gave this presentation actually back in 2018, 2019 at Do It, Project Managers and BA Competency Group. And if you followed me at all on LinkedIn, this has been one of my passions as well because I've had quite some time already working in corporate America and doing consulting as well for state government. And I've just learned that I've seen what a bad boss looks like, and I've seen what a great boss looks like. Great team, and also very toxic project team and organizational culture. So, of course, I won't name names, but this has been one of my passions. Again, if you followed me on LinkedIn, I'm a big Simon Sinek fan, and I'm in the mode or I have a mindset around constantly the desire to learn more about teams, organizations, and we're going to talk about one of Simon Sinek's books that pertain to what a high-performing team looks like, and also I'll take some work from the table group. So anyway, quick introduction about me. That I'm not going to read everything in there. Just about me. My majors was actually in architecture, not IT architecture, but the built environment architecture in the Philippines. And then two masters, one in Blacksburg, Virginia Tech. If you see me as well posting about the Hokies, that's the reason why. And then Keller Graduate School of Management in different campuses around Chicago. Right now, with the software defined data center project through VMware at Do It, serving all of the other agencies within the state. So that's who I am. So a little bit about me again. That's the progression that I have had. I actually started in IT service management and then progressed into IT business management, i.e., project management and PPM. If we look at the different skills that are needed within project management domain, we do 90% of our working time actually in communication. So it's really important that we become great communicators. At the onset of for people starting out in their project management career, they may think, oh, I'm going to be creating project plans. I'm going to be telling people what to do. And that's the wrong mindset. Again, 90% of our working time, communication. We do a lot of conflict resolution negotiations. In fact, this is one of the big reasons why we're doing a book club later on in September, a series of 4 Wednesday nights about this great book by Chris Voss. So please check the website on that one. We'll talk about how to negotiate and do conflict resolution. But I really want to talk about, again, leadership, because it's really important that I would probably venture to say, Rodney, please chime in, put it in the chat. Christy, correct me if I'm wrong. Marcus, please do chime in. I'd probably say 90% of the predictor of a project success or an initiative is really based on leadership. So just a quick poll here. I want to find out where everyone's from a domain perspective. If you could put that in the chat. I don't know who'll read the chat results, but if someone could read that for me,
Yeah.
we'll
So
take a
we
look at that.
have finance, IT public sector, IT, of course, me, medical.
So quite a bit of IT. Now, what I would argue, regardless of what industry you're from, a lot of what I'm going to be talking about today will be very applicable to your context, your organization, your team. If you run a larger team, if you have more than 7 direct reports, a lot of these will be very apropos or very appropriate to your context. Again, the main body of work that I'm going to be talking about, I'm taking it from The Infinite Game from Simon Sinek. A little bit about Stories from Leaders Eat Last. That's another book by Simon Sinek. Again, the new work from the Table Group, mainly led by Pat Lencioni, The Working Genius. That's all of the uh, key concepts that I'll be talking about. But in The Infinite Game, actually, this is an old work by a philosopher named James Carsey, and his work really talk about game theory. Now I don't know about you, but I'm also a political junkie or news junkie. I'm really paying attention to what's going on in Kabul and Afghanistan. And part of the story, actually, in The Infinite Game was the Tet Offensive. I don't know who can remember this. I was very young when this was happening, but I could still read this in the news in the Philippines when I was growing up. If anyone knows about the Tet Offensive, the Tet was a lunar festival, and there's supposed to be cessation of fighting with the U.S. forces supporting the South Vietnam, and then the North being the communist side. So it was to be a cessation of fighting, but somehow the communists made a decision to fight and surprise the American forces. I'll fast forward a little bit around this story. There was heavy losses on the opposite side, not so many losses on the American side. But we all know what the outcome of the Vietnam War was. Simon Sinek's argument is that the Vietnamese were truly, truly, truly fighting for their country, and we had a finite plan in Vietnam. And I think the same story, tragically, is repeating in Afghanistan. So, what am I saying? What are the rules of the infinite game? Again, the Vietnamese people, be it communists or and South Vietnamese on the American side, they were all fighting or had the mindset around a one Vietnam, a free Vietnam, free of outside influence. So in an infinite game, number one is there are no rules. Number two is the aim is to perpetuate the game. The game needs to go on. Anyone can come in and play the game and join in. Anyone can exit the game. Players are known, and sometimes they are not known. And there isn't any time limit on the game. So imagine this, Rodney, do you play basketball? Do you play tennis? Are you a basketball guy?
I am both, but I'm not good.
Okay. So imagine this. Imagine, Rodney, if you're playing someone on a basketball court, there's no time limit. How would we know when the game ends? There's no time limit. Who's keeping score? Can you imagine anyone just popping in and out? And in reality, that is how life is, especially in the game of business. You may be Grubhub today, and boom, all of a sudden DoorDash is around. Or you may be Travis is on seventh heaven with the success of Uber, and then boom, Lyft is around. There were some other ride shares, of course, and they've gone the wayside. But the point is that you'll never know who your competition is. And your competition may have infinite resources. So these are the rules of the infinite game. And if we as an organization have this infinite game mindset, the likelihood of us being able to sustain the organization is much, much more higher. So, what are the key concepts of an infinite game? Simon argues that these are the five elements of a winning team and an organization, a winning organization, that is. So, what are the key concepts? There are only five. Number one is just cause. Number two is trusting teams. I must have a worthy rival. And this is kind of a mouthful. The capacity for existential flexibility. And this is very kind of very esoteric in my mind. And then sadly, we have to mention this leadership and courage. I think we all know this. I'm preaching to the choirs, I think, here that we all know leadership and courage is very much needed. So, what is a just cause? The just cause is a mission, or it can be a vision for the organization. It's really the willingness to sacrifice their own interests to advance the team and the organization's cause. More often, you would find people that are willing to work on a Saturday or work on a Sunday or work past 5 p.m. or work close to midnight. Maybe they're not getting recognition or they may not be getting compensated for it. But we know why they're doing it because people believe in the mission at hand. And that is, I think it's bears without saying that, but we have to have, for an organization to be sustainable and thriving and hyper performing, the mission of the team has to be very, very, very crystal clear. So in the book, Simon Sinek talks about what are the elements of a just cause. Number one is it has to be positive, of course, it can't be negative, it can't be against something, it has to be for something. It has to be inclusive, meaning everyone is able to join. It doesn't matter what background the person is coming from. It has to be service oriented. There has to be a benefit beyond myself. It has to be resilient. It endures changes, be it technology changes or time passing by. It has to endure that. It has to be idealistic. It's bold and unachievable sometimes in one's lifetime. So, Pam, I didn't prep you on this. How do you see, even in your nonprofit work with PMI, what do you see as a vision for the chapter? Because you probably are investing a whole lot more time than I am, and two young kids providing for the family. Share something. What do you see as your mission for the chapter, and why do you do it?
So I do have a mission and the reason why I'm doing what I do. So you're right. I work full time plus I have a part-time job. I do this nonprofit work. I have two small kids. So my main focus is that when I came into project management, I didn't really know much about it. I just started looking into it and learning about it and realizing those are the skills that I have and skills I had been kind of put down on in earlier in my life, organization, things like that, leadership. So I just took it, my mission is I want to propel project managers and project leaders. So my cause is to help others understand what we do, what we bring to the table, and why working with project management and understanding these skills that we have, whether you're the IT person, you're the PM, you're the comms person working with us, whatever, that we all can use these skills. So my cause is to bring awareness and then also have a place that like-minded people can come together. So that's really my focus of why I'm doing this.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing. I know that was a lot, and I know we didn't prep you for that. Thanks
Yep.
again for sharing. So, when you take a look at, as a prime example, as Simon really talks about, the prime example of really something that is a huge, 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 big just cause is the Declaration of Independence. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal. We are all endowed by the Creator with certain inalienable rights. Among them are life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. So when you take a look at this, take a look at history from Martin Luther King's speech and then voter rights with Rosa Parks, and then to this day, as an example, even housing laws are still being drafted to ensure that really to the concept of all men are created equal. This is one primary example of a just cause. So how do we even just we dive deeper? How do we apply the concept of a huge just cause, the mission, the vision? How do we apply that to my small? I've got a small team. How do I even apply that? I would argue that we need to be able to just roll it off our tongues and elevate our speech in essence for us to be able to articulate what the project mission is, what the project vision and strategy is. And you can use that exact same concept when you're doing project visioning, you're doing journey mapping, all the way to the release planning, sprint planning, doing themes of your releases or sprint plans and sprint goals. So to me, in my mind, this is really how we are able to apply the concept of just cause. Now, for the sake of time, I won't go further as an example and further deep down as to take as an example of how to apply just cause. But as a poll, interactive poll, if you could, what are examples that you can see from your personal life, your workspace, or your community? What are you doing? Maybe you are not consciously relating it to the concept of just cause, but what are examples of what you personally are doing? So for me, as an example, I'll start off with myself. Oh, one of my missions as well is financial literacy. So again, if you followed me on LinkedIn, I've coordinated both face-to-face and also online classes of Financial Peace University. And I think, Marcus, I think we've talked about this. I think you've taken this class as well. So that's one example of me. One of my just causes is financial literacy. You can type it in the poll or you can unmute yourself. Please do so. This is interactive.
I'm watching the chat for you. I haven't seen anything pop up, but I also am a Financial Peace University graduate. So I appreciate that just cause.
Sure. A lot of these concepts really we can apply to a lot of the things, even just beyond the workplace. We can apply it to our community. So the second concept is trusting teams. And the question is, I'm trying to move around the video of faces of people so I can still relate. What are the concepts? The second concept is trusting teams. The question becomes, how do we foster trusting teams? We have to create a trusting environment. We have to trust the front lines, people up on the front line. We have to expect people to show up at their best. We just don't wake up coming to work and think, oh, Redney's back at my team. I don't know what Redney's agenda is. I think he's here to sabotage me again. I've had a bad experience with Redney. He was so bad, he stabbed me in the back. What is he up to now? Of course, I cannot come to a project kickoff with that kind of a mindset. I would argue that if you really have happy employees, you would really have happy customers. One of the examples that Simon talks about is his experience with United Airlines, but this story really came to my mind. This is a snippet of NBC News 2017, and this happened 2 years ago, so this would have been 2015. I don't know if you remember the story, but as airlines always do, they overbook their seats, they oversell their seats with the expectation that certain number of people will not show up. If you remember the story, there was a doctor from Kentucky. He did not want to give up his seat. Somehow he got seated. He was not supposed to have that seat, but the airport police came in and dragged him out of the plane. It was a big mess from a PR perspective for United Airlines. This would not have happened had the gate person not actually engaged the airport, Chicago PD as well, and the O'Hare Airport Authority. One of the arguments and comeback of the gate person that Simon Synek experienced was that because Simon was asking her, why cannot you why can't you treat us as human beings? Why do you have to yell at us? And a United Airlines employee answered, because you all have to follow rules, and if I break the rules, I will lose my job. You can surmise from that answer that that United Airlines employee has to follow all the rules, and he or she doesn't have the discretion to make decisions that are best for the customer or the client. So what do we do with projects or within a project team? We have to have each other's back. Negative communication, bring it up to channels. Positive communication, bring it down. The SM, the Agile Project Manager, the Scrum Master serves the team. And let's try to nip the gossip and let's all be transparent. And the team gets all the accolades and we work as a team. And if there's any failures, the project manager and the team really has to own the failures. If you take a look at the Agile principles even, we build the principle number 5 is we build projects around motivated individuals. We give them the environment and support they need and trust them to get the job done. That's in the Agile part of not the manifesto, but the Agile principles. So third poll, what are the ways that you have experienced to foster and deepen trusting teams that we can truly and genuinely trust each other? So if you could put that in the chat, that'd be great. I understand with this COVID times, we really have to be creative in how we can manifest those because we're always communicating via Zoom or WebEx and chat and WhatsApp. This is much we cannot see the other person's nonverbal communication, which is 70 or 90% of the message. The third element of having an infinite game mindset is the worthy rival. Way back, I had trained for a 5K. My goal was to run a half marathon in Chicago, and then long-term goal was to run the Chicago Marathon. Long time ago, I was able to run 3 5Ks, and if you know one of the program managers he used to work at, do it as well. He was a marathon runner, and I talked to him about running constantly. If Christy and I were running a 5K, and I could see that Christy is running ahead of me, if I trip her, she stumbles, and I go on to win the 5K, what does that make me? It doesn't really make me as a faster runner than Christy. It just means I gotta finish earlier than her, but it doesn't really make me a faster runner. So what am I saying? When we have who we think as a rival, I need to have a more positive mindset around perception of that person. I can compare myself to Redney. Oh, Redney has a bigger team. He's in a more prestigious project. His project is 98% success rate, has 98% success rate. When I compare myself to another person, it may reveal my inherent weaknesses. Maybe Redney is really great in negotiation, and that's something that is an opportunity for me. I need to be asking the question, where can I improve? That's what we do with Agile. We do retrospectives. We need to be doing lessons learned with projects. It's not so much that we need to go into a comparison trap where we're saying, oh, Red is so much better. He's so good in communication. He's so good in influencing other people. It's not so much that we have to put ourselves down, but more so, where can I improve? It's a learning process. And really, uh, Pam, I think this is a TQM principle, especially in business analysis. It's the same thing as benchmarking. We learn about the other party, we learn something about the other entity. What are they doing better so we can improve ourselves? It's not so much let's beat them. So, quick story on a worthy rival. Simon Sinek went to 2 conferences. He went to a Microsoft conference and he went to an Apple conference. So, when we went to the Microsoft conference, all of the conversations or the topics being presented by the presenters were, how do we beat Apple? How do we beat Apple? How do we beat Apple? When Simon went to the Apple conference, majority of the topics were, what kind of apps can we develop to better or enable the educators or enable the students? What kind of hardware can we come up with to enable the student in the classroom and the teachers? And as an outcome of this, apparently, are the iPads, which are now pretty ubiquitous. So you can see in here, just as an example here, the outcome and the output of 2 different companies based on 2 different mindsets. So again, when we're doing Kaizen or even doing retrospectives, what are the common questions that we are asking? What did we do well? What should we be doing more? What did we not do so well? What should we be doing less? And what's the one thing that we can work on to improve and implement and be better in the next sprint? And the question can be personally, hey, Redney, can you mentor me? Can you take me on as a mentee? And can you be my mentor? So the fourth element to the infinite game is the capacity for existential change. It's the willingness for a profound shift, strategic shift for a short-term goal, short-term cause to advance the cause or the just cause. The story is told about the Mac. Now again, I'm gonna age myself. Redney, are you older than me? I think you are.
He's saying no.
You are older, Bobby. Sorry.
So
By a
way back again, back in the Philippines, back, way back. I was an architecture major, like I mentioned, and we had this thesis. So we had to come up with a project, a thesis, and then a group mate of mine, her dad, they were pretty well off. Her dad would come to the States every year. And in one year, he came back with this Mac. You can see that in the PowerPoint where Steve Jobs is standing in front of it. Anyway, my group mate's dad came back with a Mac, and I was so amazed with it because all our other friends who were working with the exact same thesis or a different project, of course, they were using typewriters to type up their theses. And lo and behold, I was so amazed where we could type our numerous chapters on the theses and we could revise them and you could save it on a floppy. It was not not a floppy, but pretty hard disk, but it looked like a floppy. And I was just so amazed by this. But the story actually began when Steve Jobs and his team visited it's called PARC, the Palo Alto Research Center, and they visited Xerox. Xerox was working on a project where the outcomes of that project were GUIs. And as Steve Jobs was walking out of that survey with Xerox, he turned to his team and said, we need to work on something similar to these graphic user interfaces because I think that's the next big thing. And one of Steve Jobs' associates turned to him and said, Steve, if we work on that, we will destroy the company. And Steve replied, it's better that we destroy the company that versus the competition destroying our company. And now we have the benefit of our using a mouse and different icons and fonts. And that's the story of the Lisa and the Macintosh. I think it's a very neat story. So what do we do exactly versus having the capacity for existential uh, change? We lock down business requirements. We tell the customer, we have to have your requirements. We need to lock it down by August 31st. You cannot make any changes. And that's it, period. We'll see you in 6 months. That's one good way to not meet the customer's needs and requirements. Blockbuster Video is another story, and BlackBerry and Sears had an opportunity to work for Sears a long time ago. But let me tell you the Blockbuster story really quick because this is also in the book actually. Now, way back again, when Redney was younger, one of the board members, he may have been the CEO, but one of the high executives of Blockbuster, they had a board meeting. One of the person in that meeting said, "Hey, we think subscription may be the model of the future." And you remember Netflix initially had these DVDs, they would ship them out to you. We had that subscription as well a long time ago. Ship out the DVDs, turn it back in just using mail because a significant income of Blockbuster Video was coming from late fees. Now, if you remember Blockbuster Video, this was a way back then a pastime of mine. I would walk up and down the Blockbuster aisle on a Saturday night, pick out a video, and then forget to return it. And then I'm all the way down, almost by Lemont, and forget, oh, I got to return this video, or else I might as well buy this video. An executive of Blockbuster said that model may not be the model of the future because it seems like subscription, i.e., Netflix, was coming down the pike. And then we all know the story. The DVD, mailing of the DVDs went away. And then streaming, of course, is now pretty ubiquitous. Blockbuster had a finite game mindset about trying to hold on to their business model when their competitions and changes in technology was happening. So just a quick poll, if you can, please put it in the chat. What are examples of organizations or products that you've seen that had dominated in the past and not exist today? I think there's a lot. BlackBerry is one. I had one of those.
Mm.
Sears stores are sadly they're closing their physical stores. We can talk about Montgomery
Someone
Ward as
said
well.
Kodak, Kmart Blue Light Special. I had a Palm Pilot. I don't know if anyone had Palm Pilot.
Yes, for Palm Pilot.
Because I was
Yes,
nerdy as a young age. That's cool.
Kodak is also another story that, believe it or not, they actually invented the digital camera, which is really sad. Courage and leadership. This is the last element to an infinite game mindset. How do we manifest leadership? I think that trying to avoid group think is one. These are hard conversations when you have a different assessment and a different opinion versus what your boss is saying. Do we have the courage to say, I disagree, and I think we're headed in the wrong direction? And Christy, let me tell you why. It's really, to me, in project management, again, a big predictor of our success is the ability to influence people without authority. All these engineers in my team, I don't write their HR assessments. My enterprise architect, my developer, my network engineer, I don't write their HR assessments. But how do I, as a project leader, influence them to deliver the goals of the project or what they've committed to? And again, the courage is also to say, I don't think we're headed in the wrong, I don't think we're headed in the right direction. I think we may be headed in the wrong direction. And to tell that to your VP, say that to your VP, well, that's tough. Are we willing? I can only see you, the VPs here, I'm sorry. Pam, are you willing to say, I think this project is in the wrong direction? Are you willing to say that knowing they may fire you?
Yeah, I think there's two sides. I said, I think I'm willing to say that, but I am lucky that I work for leaders that are willing to hear
That's awesome. That's a trusting team environment that we've been
that.
talking
Mhm.
about. So how do we figure out what do people need? I mean, I have my team. I know I have this Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Yeah, I can figure out what their physiological needs are, what their safety needs are. They need to belong. They need to be loved. They need to have high esteem. They need self-actualization. How do I know? This is an add-on, by the way. This is not Simon Sinek's concept, but I would argue that we can embrace Daniel Pink's drive model in his book early 2012, 2013, about that time. Really simple. You can decompose what your team needs in three items. Are they bought into a purpose? Again, the just cause. Do they believe in the purpose at what we're working on? Do they have the autonomy? Especially now with COVID, the ways of micromanagers are going away. People do working remote. If you're a micromanager and people are working remotely and you want to micromanage people, oh, that's tough. I don't know. People want mastery. They want to be able to master what they're doing. Do they need training? What kind of growth plan do they want to be on? What kind of track within the company do they want to be on? Really simple. Find out, are they bought into a purpose? Do they have a purpose? Do they have a mission? Are they bought into it? Have they embraced it? What do they want to master? And lastly, what does autonomy look like for them? We have to ask the question with our team members, hey, do you love your job? Here's a story with Simon Synek when he was in Vegas and he went to a coffee shop at Nordstrom's and the guy's name is Noah. And Simon Synek just asked the guy, hey Noah, do you love your job? And Noah answered, man, I love my job. And let me tell you why. Every time a manager comes by, not even my manager, they come by, they ask me, what do I need? How can they make my job easier? That's all they ask about. Noah also shares that he also works at a different coffee shop, not at Nordstrom's, but a different coffee shop. And Noah shared that in that other coffee shop, all he wants when a manager walks by, all he wants is to duck under the table because the culture is so bad. So we have to ask our team members, do they love their job? If they say, it's okay, then we have to ask the question why. Let's talk about the working genius really quick. I cannot see my clock. Let me see my phone here. I've got about 17 minutes. We'll have a time for ahas and sharing. So this is a great model around the working genius, again, by the table group, like I mentioned, Pat Lencioni. They have a podcast as well. I think the podcast is named the Table Group. It's really simple. Pam, I think you've taken this test, correct? Oh, you haven't? I would
No, not
encourage
that one.
I would encourage everyone to take this test. Actually, I'm not financially benefiting from it, but
Yeah, I did actually.
okay. So I think this is a great test because this model is saying that we normally would have two working geniuses, two working competencies, and two working frustrations. So what are different geniuses? The first one is wonder. These are the kind of people where, hmm, why are we doing things this way? I think we do need to do something better. I think we need to improve on X. Or why doesn't this exist? Here's a problem. Those are the kind of people that you want if you're trying to solve a problem. Those are the kind of personalities that you want on your team or have that skill set. One example of this one would be, of course, a product owner. The other genius is invention. You put the person with the genius of wonder, and then you put another person with the genius of invention. The genius of invention will say, hey, I think I can solve that problem. And conceptually, let me tell you how. The third genius and the third personality would come into the room and say, I think you are onto something. Show me your project plan. Show me your financial forecast. Show me your budget. Show me your process map. Show me your value stream map. And that's the person that is needed as the problem solving matures in the process. Now, I'm not saying that contextually in different scenarios, of course, some of these geniuses we will be able to summon. Okay, I'll give you an example. If I'm doing a project for the state, there's a whole lot of rigor, policies, compliance. I cannot go to Marcus and say, hey, Marcus, I got an idea. Let's do it this way. Marcus will say, bad idea. Have you read the compliance requirements? But if I go to PMI and PMI chapter and I go, Redney or Pam, Why are we doing it this way? There's so much inefficiency. Why can't we do it this way? And Karen will say, well, what's your budget? How much is this going to cost? Karen, our VP for finance, will need to bring us down back to planet Earth. But the fourth genius is a genius of galvanizing. Krista will say, hey, I think that initiative is really great. I will draft a proposal to procurement to procure this person with this talent for this number of hours. Let me know what else you need. That's the genius of galvanizing. The genius of enablement will say, what kind of training does your team need, Redney? Do they need training in specific language or a specific skill in architecture in AWS? What kind of training do they need? And lastly, the genius of tenacity will say, hey team, we're 2 sprints away from completing, or we have a release date this coming Sunday at 11 p.m. We can do this. We're so close. Let's get together and rally the troops. And that's the genius of tenacity. My argument is I think that companies like BlackBerry and Blockbuster Video, if they recognize these kinds of geniuses and made sure these kinds of geniuses were in the exact same boardroom anytime they had a board meeting, I would argue that those companies probably highly likely would still be sustainable and alive today. So when do we leverage those geniuses first? I don't know if you can see that. So within the ideation phase, we have the wonder and invention. When we activate an initiative, we have the genius of discernment and galvanizing. When we implement the initiative, we have the genius of enablement and tenacity. So that's not by design, by the way, it just turned out that way. It's spelled widget. You guys remember AOL? The screeching sound. So what is the winning formula? My argument for the winning formula is adopt and embrace an infinite game mindset. Servant leadership benefits most. Know your team's personality and leverage them at the appropriate time. Lastly, there was a question, should have mentioned this earlier. There was a question in one of the podcasts where, what's the minimum genius for an organization to have? And the answer, Pat Lencioni said, the CEO at the minimum should have the genius of discernment, because the genius of discernment puts or overlays a realistic perspective to all of the geniuses of wonder and invention. So I don't know how much time we have. What's your aha moment here? So if you want to
So,
follow me on LinkedIn, that's /n and just my name.
so Bobby, we do have one question of where do they take the quiz at?
Just keyword search the table group. If you send me an email as well, VP_publicity, I'll get the key links to the table group and Pat Lencioni.
Okay.
So Casey, thanks for joining. What is your aha? What did you learn? Did you learn anything?
I learned quite a bit. Always with you. I like how you started it out. I'm actually getting ramped up on an effort that was already underway for our company. And I like you reminded me that the most important items are communication and leadership. And, I need to spend some time kind of getting those items back in order. Because right now where I'm coming in, they're not. That's my aha.
Yeah, if you really look at it, the infinite game principles really dovetails a whole lot to the agile culture. So that's the reason why it really resonated with me.
Same here. I've read all those books that you talked about, and I've listened to all of his YouTube videos. And actually, it was one of my first orders of business when I took over as president of our chapter, was to present a lot of these things to our board.
Yep, absolutely. So Marcus, what are your thoughts? Are these principles kind of hard to apply, do it, or what are your thoughts? I'm not sure if Marcus heard me. Do we still have Florence? Redney, what are your thoughts? How can we apply this at State Farm?
I thought you were asking Florence. Oh, she's
Looks like a lot of people are starting to fall off for their 1 o'clock meetings, probably.
right. You caught me off guard there. But I did learn a lot here. Oh yeah, thanks you, Christy, for saving me.
I'll help you out, Redney, because I was actually going to speak to, what was the first question you asked us? Bobby, was it what do we feel like brings us together as a team? There was some question about that at the very beginning. And I noticed Dusty put out there happy hours, even if virtual, and sharing the credit when things go right. That was something that was put in the poll. I would agree. I had a hard time trying to pinpoint what exactly, but we were just in the office a couple of weeks ago. We did some team building things. Some of us, I mean, we practiced social distancing and the whole 9 yards. But it was nice to see some faces and just be understanding of one another.
Yep, absolutely. Knowing each other is a big thing. Like we talk about, where we can use Daniel Pink's model on how to relate where people are coming from, because each week and each day may be different. People may have a challenging week, and 2 weeks later it may be a different challenge. So yeah, absolutely. Understanding and being transparent with other people, especially with team members, and not assuming anything that, again, that people have a negative agenda to bring to the table and undermine the project or undermine people or undermine the team. Yep, absolutely.
And another thing that you asked us was, what is like something that makes us want to strive for our mission? And that's kind of hard too, because I kind of feel, especially in my position in IT within State Farm, I always like to hear the great customer facing stories. That helps drive our work. Not necessarily, well, I mean, of course, other accomplishments like, oh, we implemented this and this and this. I want to hear how we're helping customers. So that's what probably drives me to hear more of the business side of things, not necessarily always the IT side.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's not so much just about enablement. What's down the line, further down the value stream? How is it really impacting the customer? And knowing that and sharing that with the team as a win, absolutely brings up the team spirit. Absolutely. We're about 5 minutes away from the top of the hour. Maybe we can repurpose this time again to share about the Professional Development Day. Pam, I'll turn this over to you. Thank you, everyone, for joining. I do appreciate you. I know you took 1 hour out of your time today to spend time with PMI Central Illinois and hear me speak about leadership and the infinite game and what the right personalities to have in your team. So Pam, I'll turn this over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Bobby. Thank you for putting your time in today and giving us the information that you've gained in your life so that we can use it. A couple events that Bobby kind of alluded to. We do have a book club that's starting in September, Never Split the Difference, by Chris Voss. So if you're interested in that, make sure you register. Not only Bobby, but Karen on our board are going to be heading that, as well as Andrew, the VP of Business Outreach of Chicagoland. So it's a little bit of a group effort there. We also, again, do have that PDD coming up on the 23rd and 24th of September. We also are offering two in-person networking events on the 23rd, one of them in Naperville and one of them in Bloomington. So chances for us to actually get together. Then also, I would say, please remember that we're always looking for volunteers. Events like this take a lot of people to make it happen. Not only Bobby is doing our publicity, but he also was a speaker today. We have Christy doing the behind the scenes operations, and she has a team. We all have a part to play, and we would love if you'd like to volunteer with us, as we have needs in the chapter to keep us running. So thank you, everyone. Have a great rest of your day and a great afternoon. And I hope that you don't have too many meetings on your calendar.
Thank you.
Thank
you, everyone.
Goodbye now.
Thank you. Bye-bye.